Tonight on Localite, Susan Sorensen educates John on the finer points of popping, locking, crumping, and much more. When she's not choreographing or dancing, Susan instructs students at her dance studio, the Columbia Gorge Dance Academy in Hood River. That's all next on Localite.
All right, so Susan, it's a pleasure having you on. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and I want to find out about where dance and your love of music, when you first started realizing you had a passion for those, and sort of how those work together, and talk about eventually where it's led you.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Texas, and I took dance at a young age. But I didn't care much for ballet class and all the rules. And the strict teacher, I thought she was quite mean. So we moved away from that area, and I started studying classical piano at Southern Methodist University, their piano preparatory department there.
Oh.
As about 7 years old is when I started, and I would go on campus, and I studied there for years, and realized that I was in the Performing Arts building and would wander around after my lesson and look for the dance studios. And when hopefully the door was open, and then I would watch class and thought, I like this. This is pretty cool. So it was very exciting for me to go to piano lessons, which I loved as well. Usually,
yeah.
And then find after class was over, or if I got dropped off a little bit early, to wander around. And I quickly found where all the studios were in the building and would watch class.
Did you spend quite a bit of time watching the classes? And
well, as you know, if I'd be there 10 minutes early, I could watch for 10, and then I'd run afterwards and see if it was open again, and maybe another 20 minutes or something before I got picked up. But
so you definitely knew there was an interest. There was
yes.
a natural interest in it.
Yes.
Okay. And then the music side, did you continue to
Oh yes,
take
I
piano
studied
and go on
piano
with
for
that?
10 years there.
Oh.
Up until I was about 17.
Oh, okay.
And I loved it. I loved going there. I loved being in that building and watching all the artists come in for voice lessons were always going on, musical instruments.
What building was this?
I don't remember the name of the building, but it was on the campus, the Southern Methodist University campus, and it was their performing arts building, and they had their Bob Hope Theater in there. That's where I would perform our piano recitals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I loved it. I would wander around there all the time.
So you were doing that for like 10 years?
Yes.
Okay, so then when did you decide, I'm actually, instead of just looking in on these classes, maybe I kind of want to get into these classes and be in them?
Around 14 years old, I think I told my mom, I want to take class there. And I was able to actually take classes at SMU for, I guess, not the university students, but so I got to take some classes there.
So you were taking classes with university students, but you were just in your
No,
teens?
they were not university students.
Oh, okay.
I believe they were just open to the public, but they were taught by the university instructors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was pretty fun.
Was there, because you didn't like ballet, you said, so
Right.
What kind of dance were you actually studying at that point?
Jazz.
Jazz.
Yeah, but
Now,
I do remember watching ballet class and being quite mesmerized by the art form.
Do you do ballet now?
I did take ballet in my 20s,
Okay.
4 days a week, but I am not a ballerina.
That's not your thing.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
So as you're sort of developing this interest and love for dance, and you're taking music lessons, are you thinking at all that you're going to move this into a professional career, or was it more just something that you enjoyed at that point? Were you thinking long term?
No, I just was loving it. I was loving being around the music and loving the movement. And then when I got into high school, there was our dance team. It's a dance drill team. Was a really notable organization in the state of Texas, and I really wanted to be on that, and you had to be able to dance. And so I worked and my junior year tried out for that and made that for my last 2 years. And that's when I started thinking about going to school and maybe majoring in dance or
making it more of a profession.
career, yeah.
So how long did you do, you toured for 2 years?
Yes.
With that group?
Well, it's just it was our local high school
Okay.
dance team, but we did, like, we performed at Dallas Cowboy football games.
Oh,
and,
big stuff.
Yeah, big stuff.
How many were involved in the troupe? Or
There was 50 of us.
50?
50 dancers.
And it was
yeah.
jazz?
It was drill team type stuff, but also jazz or kind of modern dance.
So you were kind of learning several different things at that point then.
I was getting exposed to a lot while I was still taking class at local studios and took mostly jazz.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about, and we'll talk more about this in the next segment, but I want to talk about how you went from studying and performing in Texas, ending up out here in the Columbia Gorge. And
Right.
If I understand correctly, it wasn't dance that brought you to the gorge.
No.
So you sort of ended up with a really kind of cool gig here. So
I feel very lucky.
yeah.
Yes.
So before we go to break, tell me about just a little bit about how that happened. How did you end up coming to Hood River, or is there kind of some stops in between?
No stops. I was solely in Dallas, dancing, performing, and I met a guy who knew of Hood River and spent his summers here, and I was teaching at the time on the Dallas Independent School District, and I had my summers off. So I came up with him one summer, and we stayed.
And you just never left?
Right.
Really?
We did go back to get our things. But
You had to go back for
right,
that,
right,
yeah.
right.
But
Yeah.
but then this became home.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, we'll talk more about that when we come back from the break. You guys stick with us.
Coming up,
In 1999, she said that she wanted to retire and sell the studio, and I was interested in purchasing it, so I did.